Welcome to the final Q&A session in our Ardenwood Presents 6-month webinar series on legacy planning. I'm John Mitchell, and I serve as Executive Director and CEO of Ardenwood here in San Francisco. Thank you for joining us. As Rick and Jim have pointed out so well throughout this series, estate planning is essential for every single one of us. It is a blessing to you and your family and loved ones, and to the charities and nonprofit organizations you choose to include as beneficiaries. We hope you'll include Ardenwood in your estate plans because you are invaluable to our work here. Your donations enable us to provide all our Christian Science nurses training and care services, as well as events like this one. And we thank you. Just the other day, an inspired speaker I often listen to described giving this way. I loved it. He said, you can give without loving, but you can't love without giving. Love inspires us to give freely and straight from the heart. And I'm quite sure all of us want more of that in our lives. Finally, the content shared today is only informational and is not intended to be legal advice. As always, a replay of this presentation will be available on our website tomorrow morning. And now let me reintroduce Rick and Jim. Rick Bailey is the founder and chairman of Camus and is one of the most highly renowned estate planners in the United States. As a certified financial planner, or CFP, with a master's degree in accountancy and taxation, as well as a Juris Doctorate, or JD, Rick Bailey is a highly valuable asset to private clients, CPAs, attorneys, financial advisors, and life insurance professionals for his expertise in advanced estate planning and case design. Jim Maher is a certified senior advisor and a broker consultant specializing in Medicare. He's also a certified long-term care insurance strategist. Jim has talked to more than 1,300 Christian Scientists since our first webinar back in last October 2020, answering innumerable questions about Medicare, long-term care insurance, and estate planning. He's been a tremendous blessing to our field. From what he's told me, he's loved meeting and working with each one of you. Once again, please feel free to ask questions by using the Q&A icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So please join me now in welcoming Rick Bailey and Jim Maher back to our questions that we started last Tuesday. Welcome, you guys. Good to see you.
Hey, John.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Rick. Yeah,
I've got
always good to be here.
Questions that were brought into this, so let's get underway.
Okay.
First up, I am single and have a modest estate. I own my home and a rental home that my daughter lives in. I have a good-sized IRA and a brokerage account. I have a will, but not a trust. I want to make sure I take care of my daughter and give the rest to charities. Do I need an estate plan? I don't have any life insurance, but would that be a prudent way to, would that be prudent to get at my age, which is 72? Good question.
Yeah.
I think the best answer there is the will can work. It depends really on the state that you live in. There's states I would say, if I'm looking through the Midwest, that their probate laws are very friendly, but it is time consuming to go through probate, and it really is, it's public. So all your neighbors are going to know everything that goes through that probate. So
oh, great.
if you got the nosy neighbor, they can be in your life even after you're gone. So it's a will or a trust. It really depends on what state you're in and how much you want to be organized. What I like from a trust standpoint, just there again, doesn't matter the size of the estate, the net worth. It creates ease. I have a trust set up for me. It's joint with my wife and me. If I die, really all my wife has to do, since we have all the assets, already put into the trust. If I die, my wife really just needs to go down to the bank at some point and take my name off the signature card. And when she passes away, our son is the next trustee in place for us. And all he has to do is go down to the bank and change the signature card, and he's in control of everything. So there's no courts involved. There's no attorneys involved. it just makes it easy. You know, and easy at that time of life really is a blessing. And so it's there again, we can accomplish the same transfer of the assets, whether it's a will or a trust. It's if you put a little extra work in now, it'll save a lot of heartache at the wrong point in life. And then it goes, you know, her other part of that question is, you know, taking care of her daughter. There again, it's just making sure it's set up right so that you're passing on what you want to go to your kids and in the way that you want to give it to your kids. I go from estate planning. I like the word legacy planning over estate planning. Estate planning to me, the connotation is I'm just passing assets. I'm passing accounts. Whereas a legacy, you're putting more thought into it of how are you going to pass it? You know, I look at, you know, if I'm passing, you know, with my kids, I've got 5 kids and I look at them, some are good with money, some aren't. You know, it's some I don't know where they got their financial, you know, training from, but it wasn't from me. I'm not taking credit for that. And and if I were to pass the money directly to them, that money would be spent the wrong way. Not that they would do anything horrible with it, but it wouldn't be the blessing it could be. Whereas others, I could hand it to them and they wouldn't spend it anyway. So it's think about how you're going to pass it on and what stipulations, what type of behavior do you want to encourage, or what type of behavior do you want to discourage? You know, putting a little bit more thought into that can help. And then finally, with the life insurance, when I first started into the industry, I can tell you 65 was considered old. Now 80 is considered old. We're living longer, we're living healthier, and the companies recognize that. So I think this year I've worked on probably a dozen or more cases where the life insurance has been put on people that are 80 or older. It still was a fit for them. And so we don't want to oversell the life insurance. We just want to make sure it's the fit. And so at 72, can it be a fit? Absolutely. Is it the right fit? We would want to dig in a little bit more and make sure that things are organized first. And then if the life insurance is appropriate, it'll fit itself. And that's what I like about it. It's not a sell. You know, it's not like going to the used car lot where you're forced into buying something. It's more, we want to go through the planning part first. It's if you think, none of us want to be sold. None of us want to be pushed into a corner that we don't want to go to. If we come through and put the plan together, if it fits, it'll fit great. If it doesn't fit, I'll be the first one to say, don't do it. But at 72, you're still young and healthy. It's an option.
Yeah. Plus, Rick, you know, what's interesting too, is whenever I do any planning with people in that, 70 plus, I always like to get the adult children so that they understand what's going on, right? I mean, you talk about life insurance, that's really leveraging your dollars. If I want to turn 100 into 300 or whatever it is, I can not only leave more to my children, but I can also leave more to my charities. Even with that asset, I still have control of the asset, right? I'm simply shifting from my left pocket to the insurance company's pocket. I still have value there, but now I've increased the tax-free death benefit for not only my children, but for the charity. And from doing so many of these over the years, adult children who don't understand it are very, Mom, you don't need it. You don't want it. It's no good, until they realize you're the key beneficiary. Then it's like, I think that's a terrific idea, right? I think it really makes sense. I think that's really good. Plus, I mean, John is, the CEO there. I mean, charities are always looking for more, right? I always say it's better to give more, not less. So if I can take and turn 100,000 into 300,000 or whatever it is, I think that's better for everybody. And like you said, Rick, it's got to be appropriate, right? And we've been doing this a long time. We never say, hey, you should buy this for this. It's got to fit their budget, but it sure is a way to give more money, right? If that's your goal.
Well, you hit a good part there, Jim. It's what's in it for me. And when we're doing the planning, kind of like what we talked on Tuesday, what's in it for me? And it's now we've got to take a step back and say, okay, at that point of the plan, who are we talking about? So are we talking about mom and dad? Are we talking about the kids? Are we talking about grandkids? Are we talking about the charity? The what's in it for me, we can check all those boxes.
Right.
So there again, it's, and I work with business, a lot of business owners. So when you start looking at those types of businesses, and I come from a farm background. And so I have a lot of clients that are farmer and rancher clients. And it's one where mom and dad have run a great farm operation. And then it's one where, well, they have 3 kids and all 3 kids want to stay on the farm. Well, that farm was designed to support 1 family, not 4 families. And so you'll see a lot of farms, if they don't address it, well, 4 families, they eventually starve and end up selling it. But in a lot of cases, we can have, 1 or 2 stay and run the farm. The others leave and go get the jobs that they want or careers that they want. There again, we can come back and say, great, let's pass the farm to the 1 or 2 kids that stayed. And let's use life insurance there again, the leverage of it to provide a benefit to the ones that left. We're still taking care of everybody, but we're leveraging those dollars to make it more efficient. And that's in the plan. We always want to be efficient with the planning. It all comes back to there's a cost. And when we're looking at the cost, if I can minimize taxes, if I can minimize probate, if I can reduce those costs with planning, let's do that first. And then let's leverage with the life insurance and the long-term care and those things with the dollars that need to be appropriated there. So it really is a balance, but it all comes back to getting that legacy plan in place so we know what we're doing.
I just love that. And I love this sense of order. And I think a Christian Scientist, order is an important thing in their life in terms of how they conduct their lives. And you said on Tuesday, Rick, about trying to avoid messy situations. These things can go in so many different directions, but if you have these things lined up and thought through sooner rather than later, that's the prayerful listening, acting now type approach. It just makes it so much easier. And then everybody wins. People don't win through messy processes, or
No.
The wrong people win, in terms of, because it defaults to taxation or something like that. So it doesn't, anyway. Order.
And the cost, you start thinking of messy situations. And I've had to deal with those over my career. And it's one where the kids are upset. Mom and dad promised me something, I didn't get it. I thought I was getting something. Well, at the end of the day, mom and dad know what most of those problems are, and they need to be addressed, because I've worked with families that don't talk to each other anymore.
Yep.
Not because of anything that the siblings did. It was because of what mom and dad did or didn't do. And so we can clean those up. Communication's great. We want to make sure it's communicated the right way. And even with your legacy plan, I'll encourage everyone to write a letter to the kids that when they've passed on and all those documents are opened up, nobody wants to read the legal documents, but the first thing they can pull out is a letter from mom and dad. Mm-hmm. This is why we did certain things. These are the things we were thinking about that we want you to be aware of or encourage. And that can resolve so many problems going forward.
I love what you said too about, harmony at the Thanksgiving table or harmony at the Christmas dinner table. Oh my gosh, talk about priceless. Well, let's go to the next question. Number 2, I have 2 annuities now. One I take income from and the other I don't use. It doesn't earn a lot, but I know it's safe. You mentioned a global Atlantic annuity. I have never heard of that. Would that be good for me? I don't have any type of long-term care policy.
The answer always is it depends. I don't know what type of annuity it is, Rick, but Global Atlantic, the one feature I really like about, there's all kinds of annuities out there for income purposes, for growth, for But the Global Atlantic is really good for long-term care. And it's a multiplier, right? Rick, if I can answer, like most Christian scientists I deal with, you have to answer a series of questions, John, about your health. Have you seen a doctor? They want to know if you're healthy enough. Well, if you're healthy enough, you can get a tripler, meaning we always say just 100,000, for example. You can turn that into immediately $300,000 for long-term care. So if that was the case, then I think it makes sense. But if there's another need for that money, then probably not. I do know one thing, Rick. She can do a 1035 tax-free exchange. You can take whatever annuity that is, and if there's a gain in the contract, we can simply transfer it over, right? Tell me, you're the tax guru, is that right?
That's correct. And the beauty of that is if you're using it for long-term care, everything now that you take out of there is tax-free.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas if the original annuity, if you take it out, there's more than likely a taxable gain in there.
Okay.
That you're going to report that gain as you take money out. And annuities, you pay the gain first. Now we can avoid that, move it to the Global Atlantic annuity, take it out for long-term care, and everything's tax-free.
Yeah.
And
that is a big deal.
I'll tell you, that's a big deal when you start thinking about it. If, let's just use simple numbers, you need 100,000 for long-term care. Well, if you have to tack on 20 or 30 or 40% tax, you're not taking out 100,000, you're taking out maybe 130, 140,000, paying the tax to live, use the remainder. If we can triple that from 100 to 300 without tax and have access to all 300, now it's there for the benefit that we need it for.
Right. And I get some people, because I always use 100,000 for an example. I've done them for 59,000, for 67, for 229. It's various amounts, so you don't have to feel like, gee, I have to write a check for 100,000, or if my annuity is 87,000, it won't qualify. It really doesn't matter, as long as the whole thing is it's appropriate for you and it's a good fit. Then you go ahead and say, let's submit it and see if it works for you.
Great. Next up, does Ardenwood take long-term care plans? I'm a bit confused about Medicare and long-term care. I've watched the Medicare presentation twice and I'm still not sure what I should do. I live in Oregon and have no children. I have money but would rather give to charities than spend on long-term care. Can you clarify Medicare and long-term care at Ardenwood?
Well, we know that Ardenwood, right, is a religious non-medical healthcare institution, and if somebody goes in, John, under Part A, and you correct me, I know you know this better than I do, but that's where Medicare comes into play. If you have Part A, solely Part A, you can come in and you'd have a different deductible, and then depending on how long you're in for your spiritual healing, it can get expensive. I think with Nancy, we showed an example, was it like 6 months, and it was $50-some thousand. Mm-hmm. So it can be expensive, and you have to prepare for it. And long-term care, we know that you've got to have the monies, right? And we know that you explain it better than I do, John, about how a Christian Science facility is regulated, but they're not always insurance approved, correct?
We're not licensed yet per se, at least in California. Okay. Some other states are, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so if I have the right type of policy, or like a life insurance policy, Rick, where I can use the cash values, right, as cash, or we call them an indemnity type policy, where it pays to me and I can do whatever I want with the money. I can take a trip, I can pay my sister-in-law to take care of me. I can stay at Ardenwood, right, and use the monies there, because there's no stipulation on what can I do with the monies. A lot of the policies that we see, Rick, are all the old type reimbursement, right, where you have to incur the expense in a licensed facility, and that's what hurts Christian Scientists. That's what I see out there. People were sold some of these policies, John, and they were told that, listen, you can use that policy in a Christian Science facility, and unfortunately, what they've sent me and stuff, it's not true. So you really have to look at the policy and make sure. I think some of the old ones had a Christian Science rider on. I think some of the old ones from Mutual of Omaha, they no longer sell, and that would be appropriate, because you could use it at Ardenwood, right? Either the Medicare if I need a long-term care. Any thoughts on that, Rick, on those policies?
No, I think the policies are good. And I think it really comes back to the last part of that question too. We would all rather give our money to our family or charity and not to long-term care.
Right.
None of us, and I use the example when you're thinking of your retirement years, those golden years, none of us envision that in a bed.
Right.
It's always with family, golfing, beach.
Right.
It's fun, it's exciting, it's what we want to do, but life gets in our way sometimes.
Right.
And
Life
so
happens.
it's there again, back to having a plan. The plan has to account for the good and the bad. We want to plan for the good things, because we don't want to be cut short on good things if we can. At the same time, if we can leverage some of that money, especially in these hybrid policies with either life insurance or annuities, if we do it right, then if we don't ever need that benefit, then we are passing it on to charity or family.
Mhm.
But if the worst happens, we've leveraged the ability to pay for that care where we want it to be. And I think it goes back to a lot of those policies were sold by, I use the word salesman. And if you think of salesman, I have a quota and I have a product.
Right.
I don't care who I sell it to, as long as I meet my quota. We don't want anything like that. We want to come back in. That's why it's important to have a plan. And that plan has to be customized to you, because everybody thinks of that plan completely different. I will be asked, what's the best plan? I'll pull mine off the shelf and show it to you. That's the best plan according to me.
Yeah.
But it's also based on me. But that, unless you're exactly the same as me, that plan's not perfect for you. But we want to get the plan in place and check off all the boxes as we go through.
Right. Next up, I'm still not sure I understand the asset-based long-term care coverage you presented. My spouse is not a Christian Scientist, but I am. Would this be better for him to have than myself? I do want to go to Ardenwood if I ever need to. What would help me pay for a stay there?
Go ahead, Jim. No, it's yours.
Well, the thing I like about the asset-based plans, right? Most people are hesitant to buy, nobody wants to buy a long-term care policy, John. I mean, I've been in this a long time. When my phone rings and they say, tell me about long-term care, my first question, and it's normal to a non-Christian Scientist, is, you've been to the doctor? Yeah, I went to the doctor and they told me I have this. Well, I want to purchase a policy. And I go, that ship has sailed, right? You can't do that based on the diagnosis. I'm saying with Christian Scientists, God has blessed you with incredible health. So I don't really hear that. But the asset-based plans takes away the argument of, I don't want to throw my money away. I just don't. Why should I pay into a policy for 20 or 30 years and I hope I never use it? It's like buying more homeowners or car insurance. I don't want to do that. The asset-based plan, Rick, is great because the monies you put in, right, you're going to build some type of cash value because it's in a life insurance policy, but you're going to have the money there if you need it for care. You can double, triple, quadruple, depending on your age, for long-term care. But if you never use it, I see that all the time, people that don't use it, the argument is, well, I lose the money. Not on these, because you get a tax-free death benefit. So no matter what, you're going to usually receive some type of benefit from an asset-based plan versus buying a policy, paying into it 20, 30 years with all kinds of rate increases. So that's why I am a big fan of the asset-based plans.
And it's one I can go back to, and I've brought this example up of my parents. My mom is uninsurable. She has been for years. So we can't get life insurance on her. We can't get a hybrid policy on her, but we can on my dad. And so with my dad, we both have both a life insurance policy and one of the global Atlantic annuities on him. The nice thing that we've created there is, if my dad needs care, we've got that covered. If he never needs the care, then we're going to get the money back from the global Atlantic policy, and we'll pass on the death benefit to take care of my mom. But there again, we know if he needs the care, we've got it done. It's covered. that part's taken care of. For my mom, where we can't cover her, we've got all the other assets that we can use. I would love to say I've got a policy on my mom. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But I've covered there again, as you go through that plan, there again, is that perfect? Not for most people, but it's perfect for them. That's the best scenario we can create. And it's peace of mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one
It really
I've gone
is.
through it with my dad multiple times. And it's peace of mind knowing that he's not going to take up all of the money and leave my mom without care. So,
yeah, that's really loving, isn't it?
Did we answer that question, John? I can't.
I think so. Yeah. One thing I just wanted to interject here, I made a note to myself. We also want to make sure that everyone has an advanced healthcare directive. We've talked that a few times during this series, but cannot emphasize that enough in terms of the importance of having an advanced healthcare directive or AHCD for every individual so that people know the type of care they desire. Otherwise, you don't necessarily get the care you desire. And it's just essential. And for people that are family members or just loved ones or people that care for you, if there's no family involved, everyone should have an advanced healthcare directive.
Hey, John, can you educate me a little bit? So if I'm a Christian Scientist and I have that healthcare directive, and we always use the example, I was taking the emergency room or something. What happens in that case? Can my spouse or my sister or brother, can they go get that and show the hospital that I'm a Christian Science and I want to receive my care at Ardenwood? Or how does that work for a Christian Scientist?
Yes, exactly. And because it happened to me, and that's why I have one now. Just my own personal example, and I'm not Medicare age, but I took the car to the dealership, got it fixed, and I was quite ill that day. I wasn't feeling well, and haven't done it since. But somehow I passed out, and I hit the deck, and I guess it was a little messy. I went and woke up in the emergency room at San Francisco General, and if my wife came and our daughter and said, I would like to take my husband to Ardenwood. She goes, I don't know what Ardenwood is. He's not going anywhere. And so, and we didn't have a healthcare directive. And it was really only the discussion with the director of Christian Science Nursing at the time, Leslie DeFrisco, who we've worked with, that talked with the director or the emergency room head physician. Both professionals talked together, and Leslie explained to this gal, who was the ER director, that what Ardenwood was. We were a Medicare Part A facility, and that enabled me to go to come to Ardenwood for care. And I was out within a week, less than a week, which was great. But we've had examples where people have not had advanced healthcare directive. They've found themselves in a medical situation and they couldn't get out because everyone's trying to do the right thing. And the hospital, they can't necessarily release someone and send them somewhere else because they're afraid of litigation. So it's just, but if you have an advanced healthcare directive, it says, here's the paper right here. It's got all the signatures on it. It was signed and sealed and delivered. This is the wishes of this individual. It's honored by the law, and they have the ability then to go where they want for care. But if there's nothing in writing, everyone's trying to do the right thing. No one's trying to control anything, but you just make sure that you get the care that you want. There's always do not resuscitate. There's all kinds of different parts of the advanced healthcare directive, but directing your loved ones and make sure that, as you mentioned, Jim, that you can find it. It's, some people put it on their refrigerator, or they have them on their phone. Or the daughter or whoever the person is has it on the phone. They can send it to the hospital. These things happen to me. I mean, I wouldn't have ever dreamed of a situation like that. And so it's just a protection and wisdom. So,
and you're right. It is a litigation issue, but it goes back to HIPAA laws as well. That bottom line is, if you can't make the decisions for yourself, is there somebody else named to step in? If there's not, then the courts take over.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I've back early in my career, you know, we had to go through a situation with a husband and wife. They didn't have anything set up for him. And she had to have him declared mentally incompetent in order for her to take control. And it was the most gut-wrenching thing I've ever been through. And during that whole court proceeding, the only thing I think he ever understood was when his wife said he's mentally incapable of doing anything. Whereas they could have, if they'd had that medical directive, she could have stepped right in and helped him get the care that he needed. So it can happen at any time. And so young, old, we all need one.
And to go, like you said, that court process, that's expensive. It's time consuming, it's expensive, and yeah, and unnecessary. You can avoid all of that. Anyway, thank you. Next up, I have Medicare Part A and did not sign up for Medicare Part B. I'm still unclear if I should have that or not. I'm very healthy and have not needed any type of care. I'm 79 and live alone. Should I get it? And how do I add it? You mentioned a penalty to add Part B. How do I know how much that will be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I get quite a few of those. And starting in January 1, that would be the time. As Medicare, there's another enrollment period called the general enrollment period for people that need to add Part B, and that runs every year from January 1st to March 31st. But she's absolutely right. You're going to pay a fine. And I would like to speak with whoever that is and be an advocate and say, you've got to weigh it out. But if you have Part B, that would allow you to purchase a supplement plan, which would cover, like went into Ardenwood, for example, under Part A, I wouldn't have any co-pays, no deductibles, no co-pays, but you have to look at the fine. And the fine, which you can do is you can just simply call Social Security as they handle the enrollments for Medicare and say, gee, I haven't had it for, what'd she say was, John, 79?
79.
Oh boy, that's 14 years. And so Medicare says, listen, we're going to fine you 10% of the Medicare Part B premium, which next year is going to be $170.10. So you're talking $17 a month, but that's a lot of months, Rick. And I know 10 years is 120 months. I don't know about adding 4 more on, but you have to weigh that out. But she should absolutely call Social Security and find out what that fine is going to be. Then we can kind of sit there and go, okay, does it make sense now to add that on, right? In case something does happen and you want the supplement plan, because you have to have both parts A and B to get that supplement protection.
And I'll add in one more part to that answer. The answer on any Medicare questions is call Jim. Don't call Rick, call Jim. If you call me, I'll connect you to Jim, because it really is technical, and you either know it and you're an expert at it, or don't pretend. I understand a lot of things. I don't pretend at Medicare. Call Jim.
Yeah,
exactly. Well said. Next up, I have a small life insurance policy that I've had for 40 years. I don't know if I need it anymore. You keep mentioning leveraging your money. I do plan on leaving my money to my 2 adult children and a few charities. Is it prudent to look at more life insurance? I don't think I need it, but I like the idea of leaving more to charity. Who would I speak with regarding that?
Rick,
that's one.
You can call me, but Rick's really the expert with life insurance.
That's one, definitely call. Because what we would do is, first thing is go back and review the existing policy. We want to see what that policy is really doing for you, and can we improve on it?
Right.
And a lot of times I'll have clients that I talk to that have been paying on policies for forever. And we just want to go back and help them understand what they have, so that we can make an informed decision on what to do with it, whether it's, if we don't need it, let's get rid of it. If we do need it, let's keep it, or can we improve on it? Right. And there again, it goes back to the planning. Can we give more to your kids, more to charity? Life insurance is a leverage tool. We put $1 in, we get something more than $1 out. Right. And so we just want to make sure it's appropriate. And, there again, if it's an old policy like that, it's kind of like the old, think back to the first time you saw a cell phone. And in fact, I was just watching a movie a couple weeks ago, and they were carrying around, I don't know if you remember, the big brick battery
Sure.
that had a cord that you could talk on. And I was looking at that and, think about that's the policy that person has.
It's not
It's
that
the
long
brick-
ago either.
Yeah. Well, and think about it now. I mean, I've got 2 cell phones sitting around here somewhere,
Right.
and they're a little mini computer.
Yeah.
And so you think about that. Insurance is the same way. We may be able to take that old policy for no additional cost and improve it to a new policy with those, maybe the long-term care benefits, maybe more cash value, maybe more death benefit. Whatever it is, we just want to see, can we help you improve your situation?
And I would think if you've had that policy for 40 years, there's going to be some type of a gain in it too, Rick, right? That people are going to worry about if I cash it in, well, you could have a taxable event versus if they do the exchange right into another policy. They can still do a
Exchanges are
1035.
tax-free. Yep.
Okay. All right.
So there again, it's back to, we want to make sure we can improve it for you and the family, and figure out where that benefit should go. The charity, family, kids, grandkids, all of those are good answers. Uncle Sam's a bad answer. Everyone else is a good answer.
Yeah.
I was thinking also, this is not a question, but I'm going to ask to you professionals here, what percentage of people know what's actually in their policies from your experience?
Zero.
They bought these. Zero.
Not very
Here's the problem, and that's not an overstatement by much.
Yeah.
The sad part of the insurance industry, almost 90% of the people that have bought policies never have heard from the agent again that sold them the policy.
Right.
So number one, did they understand everything when they bought it? Did
No.
they really understand the value of what they bought? The answer is probably no.
Yeah.
And so what we really want to do is just go back and make sure it's the right fit. And Jim and I have been in meetings with clients jointly where we've gone page by page by page explaining every paragraph in a policy.
Right.
Trust me, that's hard for us.
Right.
And it's
You're
good because we're
professionals.
together and we can tag team when we go through that. But there again, we want to make sure you understand what you have and can really appreciate what you have. It's
Right.
there again, it's like when you go buy a car, do you know everything, every part in that car? No. But you know the key things that matter to you besides it's red or blue. You know how it works, you know how to turn it on, you know how to maintain it. Most people with their insurance policies don't even know how to maintain it.
That's
They
right.
don't know the power of it. And so that's what we start with, is really the education. And whether it's a trust, a will, charitable trust, all of those plus life insurance, they're all just tools.
Right.
We want to use the right tool, but I want to make sure when we go through a plan that you can explain the plan to your neighbor. And we want you to be the same thing, to be able to explain the life insurance to your neighbor. Why did I do it? What does it do for me? Long-term care, same thing. What does it do? You don't have to know all of the parts of the engine, but you need to know how to keep it and maintain it.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
John, I can't tell how many homes I've been in over the years, from 33 years. They go to the drawer, they pull this out and they go, I think I have a couple policies here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they are, but I get statements on them. Can you tell me what I have? I don't know. Are they worth anything? Rick, seriously, I've had hundreds of those over the years. And one of my favorite smells is actually that old policy, right? It's folded up, and it smells like it's been in the drawer, and it's kind of an antique type smell. And I'm like, well, I had to actually be careful opening it because it hasn't been opened in so long. Everything's sticking to the plastic cover. But you're right, John. People get policies and they just have a tendency to say, okay, I got something, I'm going to throw in the drawer and I'm good, right? Even though they send out annual statements. I was with clients today and they said the same thing. We were doing a review and the husband goes, Jim, I don't understand this. I know that we have money in there. If I die, she gets more money. I go, Yes, and you go over the statement, right, to make sure that they understand it. But even after then, people give you sometimes a puzzled look like, I go, it's more, Brad, if something happens to you, your wife's going to get this large death benefit here. And that was important to him because I want to take care of her. So, but you're right, John, too often you see people that just don't know, right, what they have.
Next up, do all annuities cover long-term care? Are they good? Are they a good way to protect for long-term care? I live in Florida and my 2 children live out of state.
The real answer is no. Most of them don't cover long-term care. Most of the annuities are covered, really are designed for income, steady growth and income, almost to pay out like a pension in retirement.
Right.
And it's just the newer policies and very specific that are set up for long-term care benefits. And so if you're looking for long-term care, we want to make sure you have the right one. And we might be able to, exchange what you have now for one of the long-term care annuities. There again, we've just got to see what you have and make sure the change would be a good fit. But the part being in Florida, that's good. You're enjoying great weather. So that part's a thumbs up.
Yeah.
But the other part of that is if your kids are out of state, having a long-term care policy, whether it's a life insurance based hybrid or an annuity based hybrid, the nice thing is you have somebody to call. It's one of those, and that's what I find is, if the kids have moved out of state, well, if mom and dad need help right now, who do they call? Are you available to drop everything and hop a plane and get there? Whereas if you have a long-term care policy, they come with care coordinators, somebody that you can call that's a 1-800 number. It's an expert that can start telling you what your options are going to be.
Right.
So it's a great way to have that extra help. And also, if your kids are out of state, you're probably going to need help sooner.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's an important point, Rick. I had a client who took a long-term care policy out, probably 17, 18 years ago. And it was about a month ago. And she called and said, well, Jim, I don't know if I should start using this. I've been getting care and I've been paying for it. How does this policy work? I said, okay, all right, let's get the benefits started, right? So I called the insurance company, a large insurance company, and they said, we've got it from here. They called her, they help her set it up. They help her, get assessed. And so the money started coming in so that they could pay the service, because she had this policy. She was kind of afraid to use it almost, Rick, because she goes, well, I don't want to use all the money's up. And I go, well, that's what it's for, right? To help you. And then her niece who was helping, she goes, what do I do? I go, you just call an 800 number and let them do it. So when the care comes to the house, you don't have to provide care now. You can supervise care, right? You don't have to worry about that. But you're right, a care coordinator, a claims manager to make sure the monies are being spent appropriately, right, with the home health care agency. And I'm really probably talking more about non-Christian scientists, John, but I see that all the time. People just go, gee, I didn't know that. And the niece is like, wow, this is great. I didn't, and right. And some of the old features, Rick, on those policies, once you start using the benefit, I said, you want to start using it because you no longer pay on the policy, right? You quit paying premiums and you start using their money that you paid into. So, but the claims manager and the care coordinator are huge. They help you.
And I like that. Really, it's when you have a policy, what I like to say is start the benefits sooner, not later.
Right. Always.
I'm seeing that right now. It's my uncle has dementia, but he's had it severe for 2 years. Yeah. And my aunt has tried to hide it. She's been providing the care, extra care, to hide it from everybody else, not wanting people to be in the home to see what was going on, and it's hurt her health. But it's trigger the benefit, get the help that you need, get that extra help. Yeah. It's one of those where you can still help provide the care, but you don't have to provide all of the care. Get the help that you need so that you maintain your health and peace of mind.
Do you know what's interesting, John? Not to go down the insurance rabbit hole here, but do you know when a couple buys a policy, if you buy a policy, they don't give you much of a discount, but if you add your spouse on, sometimes I've seen a 30-40% discounts, right, Rick, in the old days, having a spouse on. And I always wondered, well, why is that? And the insurance company said, because they don't file a claim, right? The spouse provides, just like that example I was talking about the claim. The spouse provides care, like your aunt, right? And they don't think, well, I don't need to use that policy. I'll just do the care myself. So it's an enticement, I think. When I heard that, I was like, wow, that's insurance companies, you got to watch them, right, Rick? I mean, we need them, but you got to make sure you get the right kind of policy. But Rick is right. The other feature, that waiver of premium. So everybody that's watching or going to watch this, if you have a policy, you look in your policy, it says waiver of premium. Once you start receiving benefits, right, like Rick's uncle, then you quit paying on the policy. They waive the premiums. That's a huge feature. So you always want to get, I want to get people assessed right away, Rick, as soon as possible. As soon as they tell me I'm having issues, it's like, let's get the benefits triggered. So it's there for when you want to use it.
Yeah,
perfect. That's great. Next up, after I pass and my wife passes and my son is in charge, can he add additional trustees to take into account him passing?
Depends on how you draft the trust. And that's a provision that I think is important, especially the long, we can set up trusts that can last forever, depending on the state you set it up. But if you think forever, that's a long time and you can't come up with enough people to list as trustee. Really what you're after is, who are you naming trustees? If it's family members, then you've got to have a provision in there that says, okay, I've named me, my wife, my son. Now, do I want to keep adding to that list? Or do I want to give my son or whoever that acting trustee the ability to name their successor? So you want a mechanism in there so that we can make sure there's always a trustee. If there's not a trustee and there's no mechanism there, guess what? We're back in court trying to get the court to approve a trustee. There again, the court will do it, but you're paying the bill.
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure the right provisions are in there. This is disclosing probably, what most attorneys don't want you to hear. 80 to 90% of that trust document is boilerplate. Okay, it's the document. Now we want an attorney that knows which document to start with. That 80 to 90% really make sure the other 10 to 20%, the stuff that is very, very important to you, that it happens, that the family's taken care of. You're identifying the family, how you want them taken care of, all of what you would deem the important things. But without the engine behind it, yours doesn't work. So we want to make sure things to trustees, we never want a gap in the trustee or we're going to be in court. So it's easy to make sure the provisions there that say, the trustee can name their successor, or sometimes the other one I'll see is all of the beneficiaries can vote to name a new trustee and then you can give some parameters on who that can be. But we always want a mechanism to make sure there's no gap.
Smart. Here's a good question and very reasonable. How do the insurance companies stay in business if all those $100,000 policies get bumped up to benefit of $300,000?
Well, I'll don't feel sorry for the insurance companies.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty much what I'll say is go look at every sports stadium and it's probably an insurance company's name on the building.
Yep.
Everything they do is based off of actuarial calculations. We're always looking at, what if I get sick? What if I need help? What if I die? What they're looking at is a pool of hundreds of thousands, and they will figure out statistically based off of their underwriting parameters, they'll make sure that they're making money. And so The nice thing about every insurance policy that you buy, number one is the insurance company is going to reserve a large chunk of that to cover their guarantees. They're also going to carve off a little percentage that goes to the state. So the state is a secondary guarantee on that policy. And then three, all of their investments are conservative. So they're not looking at what happens tomorrow. They're buying, bonds, corporate bonds for 20 or 30 years out. And so they look very long-term. They make sure that their investments are very, very stable. If you go back and look at 2008, when the financial markets crashed, if you really want to look at something, all the banks suffered. None of the insurance companies did. In fact, the insurance companies were propping up the banks.
Right.
And so you look at it, it really comes back to they're looking at high numbers when they figure their actuarial calculations. And so that's the pool they're working off of. And don't feel sorry for them.
Right.
They are making money.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let me back up and tell you a little bit. One of the things you want to look at is there's two types of insurance companies in general. There's mutual companies and there's stock companies. Mutual companies, the owners of that company are their policyholders.
Mhm.
And so if you think about it, all they're looking at is how do we take care of our policyholders?
Right.
And so they've got to earn enough money on top of that to cover all the administrative costs and everything else, but it's all to take care of those individuals. You own the company, they want you to have the benefit. The other companies are stock companies. Stock companies, they're owned by stockholders. They still have to provide the benefit to their insureds, their policyholders, plus they've got to earn more money to take care of their stockholders. So they get a little bit more aggressive in their investing, which is still very conservative. But you want to look at the companies. Are they beholden to the policyholders or beholden to the stockholders of the company? Typically, we will use mutual companies just because they provide better protection for the policyholders.
Interesting. This is the last question. If anybody wants to submit a question, this is the last question I have for those that are listening out there. What is the difference between, you brought this up, Rick. What is the difference between legacy planning and estate planning?
Oh, that's good.
I have a trust, but I don't believe I have done legacy planning. I want everything to go to my 3 children. One needs more assistance than the other 2. Is that what legacy planning addresses? I had 2 adult children understand their brother needs more help than they do. Any thoughts on how to protect all of them? I don't have any life insurance and wonder if that's a good idea. Who would I speak to? Well, we know that the answer to that one. Thank you for the very informative presentations.
You're well on your way to legacy planning. You've started. There again, estate planning, I would say, is a subset of legacy planning. Legacy planning, I think, is taking a more comprehensive view of what are you passing on? How are you passing it on? Especially when you start looking at, here we have 3 kids, one of them special needs. Anytime we're looking at special needs, we're always looking at, we need more. We want to look at how are we taking care of that special needs child. And, it's one of those, how much do we have to provide there? And so it's one where, as you look at your legacy planning, yes, you want to provide to all 3 of the kids, but you've got to understand that special needs child, you're going to have to focus there first and almost figure out what their need would be. If you're not there, how much do we need to set aside for that special needs child? Then we'll discuss the other 2. And we want to make sure they're all taken care of. And this is one where life insurance and special needs planning can be a great benefit. There again, I'll give an extreme. I've got a client in Washington State that they've got a highly functioning autistic child. But all through his school years, they've had a 24/7, person, working with him, living with him and with him, working, and so it's a doctor that's, the dad's a doctor and makes great money, but they've been spending $250,000 a year helping their son.
Wow.
Well, in their special needs trust, they'd only allocated $1 million originally to that special needs trust. Well, and $1 million sounds like a lot of money. Till I pointed out that's only 4 years of what you've been spending. So what's he going to lose at the end of 4 years? So we look at how much really, let's be very realistic in what it's going to take to take care of that child. And let's, if we need more, can we leverage that with life insurance? That's a great place for us to look at that. And there again, life insurance is fixing a need. And so if we can get more life insurance for that special needs child, then we've got more to take care of the other two. And there again, as part of the legacy plan, who's not only giving the money to take care of that special needs child, but who is going to take care of them? And it's it's a family member, it's going to be a family member. And we want to make sure that if it's going to take more of their time, if they have to reduce their hours at work, time away from their family, how are we going to, reconcile that? So it's there again, it's making sure the plan fits. And this is one where, as you look at your legacy plan, I was working with a client, a few years back, and he was setting up some very elaborate legacy planning. And as we were talking through who he wanted to benefit, he's like, well, I want to make sure, my kids and grandkids are all taken care of, especially if there's special needs. I want to be able to allocate more to them. And at the same time, we were talking charitable planning. And I knew the extended family a little bit more. And I said, well, when you talk charitable planning, your sister has a special needs child that your sister's spending every waking hour taking care of him. Why don't we allocate some of that charitable money to take care of that special needs child? That's, it's your nephew. And he had never thought about that. So when you start looking at legacy planning and you start looking, we're always going to look at our family. We're always going to look at that charity that we're tied to. Maybe it's one we take a step back and look around us and see, is there more that we can do? That money's being used there again to promote the things that make you happy. And so legacy planning takes on that connotation of doing more, thinking a little bit deeper. Estate planning, most of the time it's, what documents do I need to prepare to solve, this problem right now? Legacy planning is taking that step and thinking and expanding out what our horizons can be.
I love it. Well, that's all of our questions. Thank you, Rick and Jim, for all that you've done so capably these past several months to explain the elements of estate planning. We are deeply grateful for you both and to you both. This has been so instructive. And thank you all again for joining us in this webinar series. Above all, we hope this has been educational and helpful. There is simply no good reason to avoid this process. Remember the acrostic I shared with you a few months ago for the word plan: prayerful listening, acting now. Acting now will bless your family, loved ones, and the nonprofits and charities you most want to sustain for future generations. It will also prevent the government from taking what you have worked so hard to save for better use than taxes. And please feel free to share the replays of these webinars with family and friends. You'll find them easily on our website, ardenwood.org. We'll be in touch soon, again by email, to invite you to our next webinar on Medicare for Christian Scientists, scheduled for 2022. That will be Tuesday and Thursday, January 18th and 20th. And one more note. We want to thank Eddie Cox for his highly professional production services of these many webinars. Thank you, Eddie.
Yes.
All of us here at Ardenwood, and Jim and Rick too, wish you and your families a very happy Christmas and a harmonious start to the new year.
Absolutely.
Goodbye for now.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thanks.